All right, subscribers, followers, or just general people stumbling on the YouTube channel, I appreciate you stopping in and checking this out. So in this video, I know I've talked about it in some previous ones. We talked about a barn find Super 2, well, at least that's what I'm calling it anyway. In this case, I purchased this little Super 2 and came to me, and it's rough. It looks really bad. So that water stuff I just pulled off of there is a bunch of metal shavings attached to the magnet. It looked like this thing had been setting in a toolbox or something like that, or some kind of workshop for a long time. Certainly wasn't your prized possession that you'd find in a nice little tackle box or case in someone's attic that had been there for 35 years in pristine shape. So I thought a nice little project for the License to Fix channel here, where we could go through and see if we can restore this Super 2 back to pristine condition and make sure that it has all the right parts and pieces that it should. So right away I can notice it's missing some things, and we'll cover those as we go through the video. And then of course when we get into the next episodes, when we start cleaning and taking care of everything that's here, things that we can salvage and restore, we'll walk through those, and I'll tell you a little bit about the Super 2 and what I've discovered in recent years as I've been fooling with them, about what makes them different, how to tell them apart from some of the aftermarket or later produced pieces, or off-the-shelf pieces, if you will. So that way, whether you're trying to restore one for yourself, whether you're interested in this one, you can differentiate between what's real and what's not real, or you're just looking to buy one off eBay. And and that's a little note too. This particular one I plan to sell. I may put it on Facebook first and see if folks are interested. eBay fees are just so terrible, and if that doesn't pan out and no interest is there, I'll probably wind up putting this on eBay too. So I'll make sure all the videos have been posted for the complete restoration before I do any of that. Now you can see I'm continuing to pull off some of these, what appears to be shavings, and they're just everywhere. These magnets, of course, you know, as some folks know, the Super 2 magnets are a little bit stronger than your traditional non-magnet traction style magnets. And so I'm just trying to clean some of this debris off, try to keep it out of as much pieces as I possibly can before we go through the teardown process. But it was pretty heavily saturated with these shavings. It looks like, I know I've done a lot of various different machining type work and grinding and stuff, and it just, wherever it was in close proximity. And it wasn't that it was clean. It was very rusty and dirty shavings that were attached to it. So I know that it had been sitting for a long time. So definitely wanted to try to pick some of that off. And then of course, when you're rubbing the steel tweezers against the magnets, it gets magnetized. So I just had a little piece of tape here set off to the side where I kind of wipe it on that tape. Clip looks good. It's nasty, but everything looks okay on it. Appears to be original. I don't, you know, most of the clips are pretty straightforward. They're copper and they'll turn tarnished over time, but we'll see if we can restore that and get it looking good. Center gear looks to be in good shape. I don't see anything that jumping out at me that says we can't reuse this, and it appears to be the correct one. Now, I will say that Super 2 center gears are different than any other AFX pancake style slot car. The Super 2s had a black center gear, and don't hold me to it. And the purists will probably correct me, and that's okay. I appreciate that. They are like a neoprene type material. They're not a traditional plastic. Here we're kind of inspecting the armature. Now I will say that this, I'm trying to turn it a little bit right here. It's stuck. I mean, it's been sitting so long, it is froze up. I can barely turn it, but I don't want to take a chance on breaking a wire trying to turn it. So we're gonna wind up breaking this down all the way anyway. So we don't want to cause any undue damage to it. But it's literally frozen up. I know when I got the car in, I tried to spin the wheels and it was just locked up, and I just set it to the side and said, hey, we're going to make a video out of this thing and kind of walk through it together and see what we got here. Just checking out the brushes and the springs. They look like they're salvageable. Got a little cleaner we can put them in to get them back up to snuff. We'll check out these springs in a minute, but this other brush looks pretty good. And that Super Tube plate looked a little rough. We're going to clean it up really good, and we'll see what that looks like. We'll also go through, and I'll definitely take the time to ohm check it. I don't know if I'll do it on the video or not, but you definitely want to make sure that it's ohming out correctly. That way when you spin it up, it's running like it's supposed to. Springs look good. They appear to be original. Super 2 springs are a little different than a traditional magnet traction car. They are slightly smaller in diameter. I believe they did that because of the brush cups in the bottom of the chassis. The brush cups did take up some room, and so they went to a slightly smaller spring, and the brush will set nicely on top of it. So that's something to kind of keep an eye out for. But the best I can tell, they look original. It's kind of hard to differentiate them apart unless you really set a magnet traction beside it. Maybe as we go through the reassembly process, I'll pull out a couple and we'll just take a look and see if they compare. They're actually very hard to find. I've only seen a couple of sets, and I've probably got 7 or 8 Super 2s, and not all of them have the original brush springs. It doesn't really change anything in terms of the way it works. Oh, there you go. There's a good shot of some of that steel that's still attached to the magnets. We'll clean that off. I'm trying to get this camera to zoom correctly. It's all over the place. So you can almost see it better right there. But yeah, we'll get all that cleaned up. I'll use some tape to help pull that away. But yeah, it's made a mess out of these magnets for sure. But yeah, the springs, they certainly are different, so it's something to keep an eye out for. Yeah, you can see everything there on both of the magnets. In terms of what works, a regular magnet traction spring works just fine. What you have to kind of watch out for is when you go to reinstall it, because it's a larger diameter, sometimes an outer ring of that larger spring will slip to the side of the brush, and it'll kind of get hung there. So you don't want that. You want that brush to float up and down nice and easy. So it's certainly something to think about. Shoes. The shoes do not appear to be original to me. Probably warrant a little bit of cleanup and further inspection. The Super 2s did come gold plated, and it was a super thin and fine coating, gold plating coating on them. And they oxidize a little differently than a traditional pickup shoe would. So they look like at some point they were swapped out. And you could see on the Armature, it's got some use. It wasn't a pull it out of the box and play with it a time or two and throw it in the box and forget it. Somebody actually played with this car, which is what they were designed to do, right? Yeah, same deal. This shoe doesn't appear to be gold. Sometimes a good way to tell that is flip it over and look on the inside. Sometimes you can see that coating. Pickup shoe springs, pretty straightforward. They're about the same as any other. I know of no distinct difference. I do know that AFX made 2 different types. I believe there was like a steel version and then there's a copper version. To be honest, I don't know if they chose one or the other for the Super 2. The ones I've seen are copper colored. But I do know that the steel versions are stiffer. So if you're running for performance, you can kind of mess with them a little bit and swap them in and out and get the handling you're looking for based on the tensions. But these were copper. So this weight, while the weight looks in good shape, The tabs on the back were broken. Because it is original, we want to try to save that. We'll probably fool with that a little bit and see if we can get those little ears bent back in place the way they were supposed to be. For now, we're just trying to get it out of there because they were tweaked. But you'll notice that the front weight is missing. It's not there at all, nor does it have a guide pin. So those are things we're going to have to address in the reassembly process as we pull together some extra parts that I have for Super 2s. We'll definitely want to make sure we're getting the right pieces back on the car. Yeah, these things were tweaked pretty good. In some cases, people who play with them quite often will use those little tabs to raise and lower the weights. Ideally, you want them as low as possible. But you can see how they're tweaked a little bit, and we'll see if we can't true that up. Luckily, the front bar going across the chassis, that looks really straight and in good shape. It's just those back ears that need some adjustment. So we're getting down to brass taxes here. Chassis doesn't look too bad. It does show signs of some wear. I think what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to this plate, and we're going to see if we can get this armature off of here and do a complete inspection. Now, some folks might say, well, why not try to free it up on the plate itself? Well, the problem is it doesn't have the right gear on the top. Super 2s came with a silver gear. You'll see a lot on eBay, and even this one itself. Somebody had changed that. And for whatever reason, I see a lot of Super 2s where the shaft is either a smaller diameter or it just gets worn or whatever the case may be. And a lot of times you'll see folks, they'll try to solder them on, which I highly discourage people from doing that. I've been very fortunate with some red Loctite. Just clean everything up real good, put just a dab inside of that gear, and then put it back on in the right location and let it set up for 24 hours. And that's usually pretty solid. You don't take a chance on further damaging. See there, this one's brass, and it should be kind of a silverish color. So we'll see if we can find the right thing in my little stash, and we'll make it right when we go back together. But yeah, this puppy's locked in there. It's tight, so we'll work it out of there. Yeah, it's coming out. We just got to be ever so careful. We don't want to, and it is really frozen in here. I don't know where this thing was. Obviously, it was high moisture too. But the plate looks to be in good shape. It is the correct plate. So the top plate was made out of the same kind of plastic. It's black, it's not gray. It's kind of like that neoprene, if you will, type plastic. Somebody please correct me in the comments of what this particular type of plastic is called. And it did have the tabs on the back, and the tabs look to be in really good shape. The tabs, if you didn't know, because I did not know when I was in my younger years, the tabs are there to hold the back of the body up. So it's a flip forward body, a little Lexan type molded body, and because it pins and pivots in the front and just lays down the back, and those little tabs help hold it off the rear wheels. With the armature, everything else looks solid. Front axles, word to the wise, if they are stuck and they will not twist, I suggest not pulling them off. I have seen some on so tight that you will damage the wheel or bend the axle beyond use trying to pull them apart. So I usually give them a good pull, a good twist. If they'll flex, if the wheels will move, one of them will move independently, then I feel like I've got a good shot at getting it apart. Sometimes not easy, but I can get it apart. But if they are solid and they will not twist, I would suggest not using any tools or anything on them. Try to restore it on the car, shift it to one side, then the other, clean the axle as best you can, and polish everything as best you can. But in this case, it felt like it came off relatively easily as compared to some that I've dealt with. And this will allow us to get a real good clean on everything and get everything back in great shape before we put it back together. And then as we go through that process, I'll kind of tell you how to differentiate. There's a lot of wheels out there, aluminum front wheels that fit these AFX cars on eBay that say Super 2 AJ wheels. They're not exactly the same. So I'll try to show you what the differences are as we go back together. These rear wheels are definitely not original. They are screw-on wheels. They have threaded knurled axles, and that is not original at all. So original axles were slip-on real wheels, and they had a set screw in them. Again, we'll see if we can't find something in my stash and see if we can restore this to original OEM, which may require that we put some new sponge tires on the rear, because I think I have the wheels, but I don't have tires already mounted. So I don't have a great truing tool. I have some pretty crude techniques about it, but it works. And for the purpose of what we're doing, because nobody uses foam tires anymore, everybody uses like a rubber or silicone. They just stick better to these tracks. It's just to sit in the display box and be a piece of history. So it works for what I'm doing. They might not be 100% identical, but for the most part, they will be factory and be the same. So trying to get some of this hair uncoiled from this rear axle. Inspect this rear gear a little bit. We definitely want to push out the threaded axle. If you have a tool handy, by all means, definitely use it. You don't want to flex the chassis if you can help it. So I like this little tool. I'm actually not using the right little piece in it. The right one in this case would have like a little cup on the end of it, and it would just cover over it, but you just go right real nice and easy. It'll just push it right on through. Very simple, just like that. So we'll pull this axle out. We'll wind up discarding this axle and selling it or putting it in the stockpile or doing something with it. It will not go back in this car, so we're not too concerned about it. However, we do want to take a close look at this rear gear. So Super 2s, another unique feature about the Super 2 is that it came with a 19-tooth rear gear. Every once in a while, you'll see some 19-tooth gears pop up on Facebook. Well, go ahead and purchase those if you want, and you can use them in pretty much anything you want to. However, know that they're not necessarily original. So a couple of things that I've noted in my time in getting involved with these little guys is that the originals do not have a number as part of the molding process on the backside. So you have the crown of it, and then on the backside of that, a lot of the reproduction or aftermarket, they'll have like a little number embossed on the edge. If you see one with a number, it's not original. I've never seen an original with a number on it. This one doesn't have a number on it. So there's also another little tattletale sign that as I got to fooling with these a little bit more, trying to understand how you differentiate between what I would call an aftermarket or American line made Super 2 rear gear. And you really have to look at it closely with glasses, and maybe we can take a look at it here in a minute. But where they created these things originally, and they created these individual splines, to the inside of the teeth, there's a slight little groove. Almost looks like a drill bit came in from the side and put these very unique little grooves in between each tooth. That's how I've come to notice which ones are original and which ones aren't. First indicator is, does it have an embossed number on the backside? If it doesn't have that, then I'll flip it over and look to the inside and see if we can find this embossed groove. At this point, what I'm trying to do is I'm just taking a look at these teeth. I want to make sure they're nice and straight there. A couple of them look like they'd had some use, might have been sitting or squished a little bit. Doesn't hurt anything, and we'll reuse it because it is original, but it needs a little TLC on it here to get it back in really good shape. But we don't want to discard it and put one of those aftermarket guys in there, because I think it kind of takes away from the history of what it really is. So we're just truing these little teeth up a little bit, and that way it'll run a little smoother. I'm sure if I had a brand new one, we could pop that in there and that would be fine, but in this case, they're pretty hard to come by. The ones that were created specifically for these cars when they first came out. Just in that shot there, you can just see these little grooves. I'm still fooling with it, but if you look real closely, when you hold it over and look at the crown part, those little grooves that were in there actually on the flat surface, that's how I identify if it's a true original Super 2 gear or not. So just a little tidbit you can stick out in your back pocket, and if you're out shopping around and somebody tells you they got an original, that's one way you can kind of differentiate on it. Well, appreciate you watching, and stay tuned for the next videos. We get everything organized and cleaned up.